Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wayne Gaming. It's me on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Devil's Gambit. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Okay. I thought as much. It's endemic to the Eye Valley and of no interest to physicians abroad. He takes a step forward and pulls his own pair of prismalium glasses. It's a nasty thing, unpredictable too. For some victims it ends within minutes as their flesh decays and falls from their bones. Their best bet is an immediate amputation of the bitten limb. But this one, he is a guardian angel, it would seem. What's your assessment of his layers? It's almost like the venom is forming a barrier between nerves and flesh and nothing else. In isolation they seem unharmed, but the connection between them is severed. I've seen nothing like it. But if I can correct the life force flow in the nerves layer before his organs fail, he should make it through unscathed in the end. I just hope it's not too late already. Even if he's not suffering from that much more lethal effect, his flesh layer being separated from the life force flow would be fatal if left alone. That is, if his heart or lungs won't stop working first. I see. This journal should help you. It contains notes on the venom. I marked the page for you. Thank you, sir. Venom that will either paralyze you or melt your flesh off your bones. It's no surprise I only have notes to work with. What's that? It's too risky to wait to see what the effect will be, so all bites are treated with amputation when possible. Few of the victims must have reached my patient's stage. Figuring out how to correct the life force flow is easier said than done, especially when I'm racing against time. There's no doubt the venom is the source of the disturbance. If only I could manipulate that property somehow and reverse the effect. I sit down and go over the journal. It's an old leather-bound notebook, with some pages falling off and new ones stitched in here and there. As I skim it, I see a dozen kinds of handwriting, each adding their own discoveries, experiments, and procedures. From some heated and faded comments I find scribbled on the margins, I deduce a significant part of it was authored by a wolven doctor back during the Leopoldno's expedition. Concerning Duskviper bites, I see the author had the same idea as me. On the next pages I find a list of herbs, 30 or so, 20 of which were crossed out. Then comes a dozen pages detailing failed mixtures and their results, each one with notes added by the other hand speculating about why they didn't achieve the desired effect. The last page of the section describes a formulation that saved 1 in every 7 patients. 4 died as expected. 2 managed to move and talk again, but rotted alive hours after. Good God. The life force flow wasn't sufficiently corrected, evidently. 1 survived. Not good. What catches my eye, however, is the recipe. Out of the original 30 listed herbs, it uses only 4. No hypothesis provided for why or how it worked. The notes make it clear it was achieved through blind trial and error. 3 of them are stimulants. One of them is even known to have some hallucinatory effects, depending on how it's prepared. However, the brewing method is inadequate. Whoever arrived at this formulation didn't know how to handle these ingredients. They must have overheated and lost their efficacy. Perhaps that's why it only worked in 1 out of 7 victims. It takes me a sample of the wolf's blood and experimenting with a few different preparations based on the recipe, but I produce results. I become hopeful when the blood sample, once mixed with elixir, finally coagulates, as it should. It's far from perfect, but he has no time to spare. I can only pray it's enough. The rest of my shift isn't nearly as eventful, but rather than taking it easy, I'm still thinking about the Duskviper venom. Particularly about how it can have such wildly different effects. A perverse thought crosses my head then. A victim rejects having their limb amputated and hopes they'll experience the tamer effect. Within minutes, that hope is shattered when they realize they're melting, and what follows is a death too terrible to imagine. Much like everything else from the Eye Valley, it shakes me to my core. And yet, when I check on the scout an hour later, I see that he's recovering. Not a single liquefied finger. He's already looking around and cracking jokes as if he was recovering from a simple hangover. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Venom is just venom. I couldn't have saved the scout without the research journal the head doctor handed me, without the help of a dozen doctors who came before me and set up the stage for the future. Doesn't that prove that, as with everything else, it can be treated with enough knowledge and research? The Eye Valley is dangerous, but most of all it's unique. A mystery. As soon as that mystery is solved, it becomes possible to shield oneself from its dangers. As I'm writing my formulation, reasoning in the journal, I wonder if the same could be said of Ranzai, that demon. For every venom, there's an antidote. For every illness, a cure. For every mystery, an explanation. With that thought, Cadgan's comment about the dancers leaps at me. Wouldn't everything about Ranzai make more sense if it was a trick? Local beliefs aside, the Inquisition already investigated Renai at the Duke's request and found no demonic activity. If the biggest, most prestigious society of demonologists and exorcists says that there aren't demons out here, who am I to question their results? What about Ranskai, then? I don't have a concrete reason to point my finger at the dancers, but the men had similar physiques and outfits, so let's presume one of them broke into my room for now. I might have been confused about the disappearing door. It was dark and I was panicking, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility I just ran to the wrong place. His hooves. Again, it was dark. I didn't get a good look at them. They could have been a trick. Some kind of elaborate footwear, maybe? You never know with performers. But everything else is much harder to explain. Him breaking into my dreams, knowing things he shouldn't, the fire from the rejection spell, him vanishing into thin air, and the unmistakable scent of the valley. Somebody skilled in fire magic could fake the rejection spell, but I can't explain everything else. It's clear to me that Ranskai was peering into my heart. That's a demonic quality that no mortal magic can replicate. And perhaps more important, why would anyone do this? I could understand, for example, a wolf pretending to be a demon, to threaten Manol. Maybe they'd do it as part of a ploy to get money out of him, or so he'd stop the expedition, or just because they hate him. But me? I earned no more than Manol's other doctors. I held no influence over the expedition, and I can't think of anyone who'd hate me so much they'd pose as a demon to scare me. Even if somebody was holding a grudge against me, surely it would have dwindled during my absence. Dad had a history with this town. He had formed deep connections here. Could he also have made an enemy? Somebody with a grudge so great they still hold it to this day and are now directing it towards me? It still sounds ridiculous. The only explanation is that Ranskai truly is a demon, right? If so, perhaps it's time I visited Uncle Finbar. I recall him being fairly knowledgeable about the town's myths and past, and considering the Eye Valley is a central element of Renai's myths, he should know about it too. That could give me clues about the demons that once inhabited it. Besides, I'd like to check on Finbar. It's only been a few days since he improved enough to not stop needing regular checkups, but I miss seeing him. Not to mention he might slip back into his bad habits if there's no responsible adult around, Hector. It's a little past noon by the time I knock on his door. The old wolf raises his eyebrows in surprise when he sees me. "Hector, how are you doing?" But as he says those candid words, he deflates and furrows his eyebrows with suspicion, or perhaps just curiosity. Did I get something on me while at the hospital? Maybe a piece of melted scout? I'm alright. Are you sure? You look like you just watched a kid get run over by a carriage. What? I'm perfectly fine, really. The uncertainty doesn't lift from Finbar's expression in the least. I sigh and shake my head. How about you, Finbar? Is everything in order? Yes, quite. I have something to show you. Come in. It seems he at least understands I don't want to just talk about my mood. I suppose the demon was right. I am transparent. Inside the shop, the forge is cold, and the mess of iron tools on the table has been replaced by a different chaos of paper, ink, and pens. Finbar sits down and starts organizing the unbound parchments into a stack. What have you been up to? I did some thinking about what you told me, that I should find something to do, other than smithing, that is. Figured I'd pick back up the pen and give another go to my little dream. I didn't know you used to write. Your dad never told you. But it was a long, long time ago. He must have forgotten. Finbar's fingers slow down and his eyes drift off to the windowsill, and for a moment I recall how he and Dad used to talk there during days like these. Come to think of it, Dad was the one who first insisted I call him Uncle. Your old man never was too fond of fiction. He preferred his dusty manuals and treaties. But he had a spot for my little tales. Finbar's gaze returns to his papers, and his ears perk up when he finds the page he's been looking for. I suppose you don't have the time to go over the entire manuscript, so look at this instead. The old blacksmith hands me what appears to be an outline of the story. Although the ink is recent, the paper has a faded look and a musty smell. It goes as follows. Bridget is the most beautiful wolfess in Renai, coveted by man and woman alike, and envied by Anna, the Duke's mistress. Summer arrives, and a brave wolf by the name of Conley vows to win every event in the Great Lake Games to impress the wolfess. Through many trials and rivals, he succeeds, and it's difficult to follow what happens next. Finbar must still be working on it because a lot of text is struck through or just stops abruptly. But the gist of it is that the Duke's envious mistress becomes involved, and then there's a barrage of twists and dangers that threaten to tear Bridget and Conley apart. This isn't what I would have expected Finbar to write at all. So, what do you think? I admit I'm a little uncertain about the second half of the story, but the first half could be a heartwarming tale. I'm still workshopping the second half, so what did you like about the first? What would you improve? Come on, I'm all ears. Well... Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay. Let's see. Bridget have a little more protagonism. The story focuses on Bridget at first, but she doesn't do much after Conley comes into the picture, doesn't she? She'd be more interesting if she had a bigger role somehow, more than just looking pretty for Conley. Finbar rubs his chin, wary. Maybe, but sometimes that's the point, right? Sometimes you just want to be the reason all the big men in town are at each other's throats while interesting things happen around you. Ha! He's not wrong, but personally I could use less excitement in my life right now. Do you have any ideas for what she could do? For example, let's say the Duke's mistress is scheming something and only Bridget catches wind of it, so it falls onto her shoulders to stop it. Or maybe she runs a shop and is struggling to keep it afloat, so there's drama around that. Just throwing ideas. I see. Very well, I'll take note. I hope you aren't taking my opinion too seriously. I can't make heads or tails of anything about writing. Ha! So what? That doesn't stop my wife. Ha! I look back at the windowsill where Finbar and my dad used to talk. They're back towards me. For a moment, it's as if I was a kid again. I can almost hear his voice. I wish I could stay and enjoy it for longer, but another part of me knows I have to go back to work soon. People need me. I should get to the point. Uncle Finbar, you're knowledgeable about the town's past, yes? About as much as any other old fellow from here, I reckon. Well, what do you want to know? Do you happen to know about the valley? The valley, eh? Not to stick my nose where it doesn't belong, but why the interest? I went there with Cadgan around the time of the last expedition. It was terrifying, but mystifying. It most certainly is. Truth be told, I could only tell you some fables my father passed down to me, but you're a more scientific fellow, so I figure that's not what you're looking for. Though maybe this will interest you. The old wolf puts his manuscript aside, opens a drawer, and produces an old book from it. As he flips through its pages, I catch glimpses of countless sigils, not too unlike the one Cadgan drew to dry his clothes. One of them catches my eye, but Finbar flips through it. He stops when he spots an all-too-familiar symbol. Oh, that's the symbol you put on the buckles. The 2 planets. Its true name is lost, but we know some of its meanings. It's the heart, as in the core, but it also represents a vast body. A celestial body, judging from what you've been calling it. To be honest, that part is debated. If you think about it, doesn't it look like the Earth and the Moon? Wouldn't it represent our entire world, then? That was one of my first thoughts, yes. But some say that it's about large bodies of water, such as the ocean. There used to be this couple that would always correct me about it whenever I said 2 planets. Ha! Alright, but what does it have to do with the valley? Here it goes. Usually this symbol has nothing to do with the valley. However, according to the men that survived Leopoldno's expedition, it was all over the place in the valley's deepest recesses. According to them, they found these large crystals with symbols carved into them, and this one appeared very often, but they were too heavy to bring back. How ominous. I wonder what it means. Who knows? Maybe it's just a word that the wolves of Renai borrowed from the demons. Finbar is half joking, but he might be right. Renskai struck me as surprisingly sociable, I suppose, going as far as offering safe passage into the valley. Could they have extended that privilege to some wolves of old Renai? That would explain how such a cultural exchange took place. Before I forget, there's something else I want to check. Could you go a few pages back? I think I saw something. Alright, y'all. I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank you all for all I do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silverman. Thank you for going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to our 2 gold tier patrons, Zeke and Toby. Y'all are awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits, get access to all of our Not Safe for Work contents as little as $5. Alrighty, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!